Welcome to Not What I Thought. I'm Erika.
I'm Yolanda.
And I'm Becca. We're therapists, entrepreneurs, and perfectly imperfect humans. We first met during a business owner retreat where we became fast friends because we're not afraid to be real and ask the hard questions about life. What we thought it would be like, how messy it actually is, and the courage it takes to create the life we want.
We continue to build our friendship and personal growth through our own retreats. We find the deepest connection in sharing our struggles and finding what we have in common rather than what divides us.
We're breaking down hard topics on our podcast and together have conversations about what it takes to find real talk, real support, and real rest for professional women. We're glad you're here. Join us on your favorite podcast platform. So I want to talk today about goal setting. I have become someone who really loves a good goal and a chart to track my progress and all that kind of stuff, but that has not always been the case for me. There was maybe one time in my teens or 20s that I was like, I'm going to do a New Year's resolution. And it was a terrible experience. And for me, New Year's resolutions are like, go into the category of like you're going to win the lottery. It's fun to think about, but there's no, like, everybody knows it's not going to happen.
Oh.
Right? I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks that way, but that totally is for me.
It's a fantasy.
Yeah. Yes, it's just this fantasy. And there's so much of like, I think shame and perfectionism that can be all tied up in the like, well, I'm going to be better at this next year, or if there's something I'm going to do every single day. And it's like, even when you say it, do you really believe you're going to, or do you like think that you're going to become a different person January 1st? Like, I don't know. It just is like
on that day, you just do everything you wanted to do.
Yes, magically. You're going to do it, right?
You've never done something every day of your life, but come January 1st, that's going to change.
Right.
Magically.
Right. Yeah. The only things I've maybe consistently done every single day of my life is like breathe, probably pee. I can't even say sleep. Like there have been 24-hour periods where I have not slept. Come on.
But other basic bodily functions. We got a gold star on those things.
Right. The ones you can't control.
Right.
And I feel like things really shifted for me in 2020, actually, with the pandemic. Or it might have been 2021. I'm not sure. Somewhere in there where it felt like everything was out of control. And I would set goals or hopes for my business or my career growth, but somehow it still was kind of in this category for me of that, like, oh, that would be nice, but it's not actually going to happen. Or at the very least that it was not, the goal seemed still like fanciful dreaming and not connected to a belief that I was actually going to do the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I remember being somewhere there when, I mean, I'm in California, so I had a different experience with the pandemic than the rest of y'all.
And we did. Yes.
When things were still shut down and it felt like everything was
yeah.
scary and people were worried, right?
Yeah.
It was in the midst of that I was feeling really discouraged about like, what do I do? I don't want to set any goals because it's all going to fall apart anyway. I don't have control over anything. And I had a friend who encouraged me to like way narrow down my goals to, well, what are things that you can actually control? And maybe you set goals for that. And so my goal setting for that year was then not about, well, I'm going to earn this much money or my business is going to grow by this much or whatever. It was like, okay, I should have brought my goal papers. I actually thought about that when we planned this and I didn't remember them and bring them. But the goals shifted then to things like, I need to get outside at least once a month. And not just outside of my house, but like in nature. Okay, that's something that regardless of whatever else is happening in the world or, lives of people around me, like I should be able to make that happen, that I could spend one day in a month outdoors. Right? And and there was, some other things that were in a similar category about how I was going to move my body, how I was going to care for myself, um, maybe investments in relationships with friends that were a lot more about really what I could control or what I had power over is maybe a better way to say that. And a lot of that goal or intention setting during that time was less about the outcome of the thing and kind of more about how I wanted to feel. Because I don't know, and I can't manage everything that's going to happen out there, but maybe I can be looking at how can I have a good life in the midst of all of this stuff, right? And I don't know, I have lots of thoughts about all the things that happened after that, but yeah, it really shifted things for me. And now I'm like, every year I have my goals at the beginning of the year. I have my little papers where I track the things that I said I was going to do every day. And it's become really motivating and exciting for me. I think because there was this kind of crisis thing that forced me out of this idealistic thinking about goal setting and more into being really personal with what I want and what is in my power to make happen for myself.
Yeah, there's so much that comes to mind in what you said, Becca. And the first of which is like thinking back to COVID and how so many people during COVID were like, oh my gosh, this is my goal for this lockdown period. And I'm going to learn how to bake sourdough bread and I'm going to learn a new language and like all these things. Um, and then also another thought is just, I don't like, what is our definition of goal? You know,
Yeah.
what does it mean for you? Like, clearly there's a shift for
Yeah.
you in how you identified what a goal was or what that meant for you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that for me, some of my goals for a year, and I'm careful that I don't call them New Year's resolution. They're just goals, right? Some of my goals are the things that are like maybe would go more in a category of an intention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my intention is that I'm going to meditate regularly, or my intention is that
Mm-hmm.
I will move my body in some way every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there are other things that are like, I would like to accomplish this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
there's maybe something that is concrete that like, yes, I did or didn't do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so some things for this year were like, I wanted to go on a backpacking trip. It's like, okay, I either did it or I didn't do
Mm-hmm.
it. But I think that the biggest shift for me has been a mindset shift more than really switching what the definition of a goal is.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is that um, I'm so much more realistic now about what it takes to accomplish a particular thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think in a way, I have maybe lowered my expectations a little bit. Like they're not quite as lofty, but it has become
Right.
more motivating because then it's things I can actually accomplish.
I'm like, wait, is that allowed? You can lower your expectations? What?
So something like an income goal for an entrepreneur, I used to just toss out a number and
Yeah.
be like, I want to earn this
Right.
much. And that was my same number every year, but it was completely disconnected from, well, is that realistic in this year? How is that going to
Yeah.
happen? Whatever. The last
Mm-hmm.
2 years, my income goal has been, I want to earn more than I did last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so it
Yeah.
is connected to something specific, but I could achieve the goal by earning $1 more than last year
Yeah.
or several $1,000s more than last year or bigger than that, right? But
Yeah.
it's like so part of what's been the mindset shift is having like being more realistic about the goals, um, having them connected to, well, how is that thing gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is probably something we'll talk about in our goal setting workshop that we're doing in January,
Yeah.
like breaking the big thing down into like smaller
Yeah.
pieces. Um, and then another big shift for me has been moving away from perfectionism in the goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y'all smiling.
Preach.
We all light up on
Preach.
that
Oh,
one.
what?
Preach, sister. Right there. Preach. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of with
Mm-hmm.
this idea that like, if the goal is this thing out here that I want to reach, and the fact that I have the goal way over there on the horizon gets me to move in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if I achieve or if I reach the spot on the horizon. The fact that I had a goal out there moved me in a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
That is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So it's like
Yeah.
disconnecting from the strong attachment to the outcome.
Mm. Preach. That's another one. Wait, are you reading my journals?
No, but we have been friends for a while, so.
Yeah, yeah. We are all the same person in different bodies, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this other shift with the everyday goals
Mm-hmm.
that, and this starts to get a little personal with some of my past stuff where,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up religious, and there was a lot in that framework that was somebody else telling me what I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You should pray every day, you should read scripture every day, you should journal, you should, whatever. There was a long list of shoulds. And when I was in it, I noticed it, and it was often a way where I didn't feel quite good enough. Because I was never perfect at all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And after I left religion, there was a good while where every night when I would lay down to go to sleep, I would have this feeling of guilt come over me that was so habitual. What did I not do today? Because that just was the life that I was used to, that I would go to bed feeling guilty that I hadn't done one or all of these things that I was supposed to do every day.
And did that translate, Becca, into how did I fail today, or how did I not measure up, or?
I think it's just I think that is or was part of my resistance to goal setting too. It's like, why would I want to do that? I'm going to feel shame every day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to set myself up to like, I'm going to go to the gym every day because I know how awful it feels
Yeah.
to have this constant, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my post-pandemic goal setting, part of that was me playing around with things I want to do every day. And I bought and downloaded a little PDF thing that has like a square for every day that you can color in whether you did the thing. And now it's the one I do every day are different because it is self-generated. This is actually stuff that I want for myself, not somebody else telling me that I should do this or that I should want this, right? And then I color my little square, whether I meditated or moved my body or whatever. And I remember this time, maybe 2 years ago now, that I want to say it was probably February. So a good amount of time that I had done the thing every day. And it was that, go to bed at night, I haven't done the thing. And I had this moment, and I remembered it being this turning point thing, this moment of like, oh, I could get up and go, I don't remember what it was. I could get up and go write in my journal, write 2 sentences so that I can color in the box and say that I did it. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember the thought process was like, well, what if I played with this a little bit and let myself not be perfect at it?
Oh.
And so I chose to leave the square white for the day. And for that to be a reminder to me for the whole rest of the year when I looked at the white square, and like, spoiler alert, that wasn't the only white square for the whole year. Right?
The only time you ever did it.
Right? But like it became this symbol of like, I don't have to be perfect to be good. And I don't have to do this project perfectly for it to be worthy. Like, it still is helping me so much that I am doing these things to care for myself nearly every day. And if the paper helps me remember, that's great, but I don't need to be like a slave to the paper or let the paper like shame me because I either was tired or forgot or just didn't want to.
Hmm.
Right?
Bringing humanity into.
Yes. And then last year, I took it a different level. At the end of the year, I'm looking at my paper because now I do it all the time. So I have 4 years at least worth of these papers with the little squares colored in. They go on the inside of my closet wall. I just kind of love that here's this little self-love place of things that matter to me, right? But I got to the end of 2023 and I looked at the white squares on my little paper and I decided I would calculate a percentage. So I counted up how many white squares there were and figured out what percent of the days I actually did the thing that I said that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And having always been the like A+ student, this was a little anxiety provoking for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I had 3 of those last year, things that I wanted to do every day. And my percentage score for them was somewhere between like 79 and like 90% for the 3. And I thought, oh, that's actually really something that I'm pretty proud of, especially if we put it into the category where we started of like a New Year's resolution that everybody knows you're not going to do anyway. Like I felt so good about, hey, I said I was going to do something every day. And for an entire year, I did it, 82% of the days. Like,
That's awesome.
that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Like I feel the like the lighterness of that in my body, even as you're talking about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, the all or nothing, black and white aspect of perfectionism, right? Whereas if you had only one square that was not done and you hadn't been changing your mindset, then it would be like, I failed the whole year.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, no, I missed one day. That's different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not like missing that one day meant anything. Like there were no negative consequences. It's not like,
Right. The world didn't stop.
I have to give someone a life-saving medication every day and I missed one day and they died. Like that's not what we're talking about.
I know. Becca, do you think it was primarily the religious part of your background that formed
Had all
that
this-
idea of goals?
I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me in particular, was that a factor? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that I am not the only person and that lots of people outside of my particular religious tradition I was raised in have some of these same types of thinking about goals and goal setting and the perfectionism with it. And so like my experience probably had a unique flavor because of my religious experience, but I don't think it was entirely that. But definitely that part about resisting something to do every day and not wanting to feel the shame of that and having to unlearn guilt as a daily habit was, yeah. At that point, it really was like a habit. I was so used to feeling this constant sense of guilt that it wasn't even connected to anything anymore. It was just like, oh, lay down to go to sleep. Here comes the guilt.
Wow.
Now I can't sleep just thinking about it.
I was about to say, how'd you ever sleep?
Somehow I'm a great sleeper, so it's been really exciting for me to experience this shift where now setting goals for me is exciting and it's connected, or it's exciting, yes, but it's also empowering because it's connected to this like, look what I can accomplish. And I have found as I've made these shifts that it's been really moving, I guess, to have the experience of going, I thought that I could do a thing and I did. Right? And And the funny thing is that income goal that I set out before that was like, oh yeah, I'll never reach that. The year that I started doing this was the year I reached that goal.
Oh,
Not funny.
that's cool.
I don't think that it actually was like that there's a direct correlation. Um, but more that my goals from there forward,
Mm-hmm.
I have shifted my thinking in, yeah, I want to reach this other income goal. And if there's a part of me that thinks, oh, that's not reachable, it's like, no, it is. I have data that
Mm-hmm.
says that it is. It might not happen this year. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to look, connect the goal to how is that going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
But it is just so like empowering and fun now to be able
Mm-hmm.
to dream about things that could happen with the idea or with the belief that it's possible and not just like, oh yeah, that's, fantasy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I'm glad we had this
That's right.
conversation today because you've inspired me I need to challenge some of my things going on with getting back on the Peloton, and I haven't been doing that a lot, and I'm definitely stuck in the rigidity of like I have the
Mm-hmm.
way that I like to do it, which takes like an hour and a half, and then
Uh-huh.
that's a lot of time, and then but I can't do
Mm-hmm.
it if I can't do the whole routine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or get a certain like output. That's also a
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I'm gonna get on the bike for 5 minutes today.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
It does allow for more flexibility over the rigidity and the perfectionism.
it.
Yeah. And I'm just reflecting on like how many times do I set some random goal that's not based on any kind of reality of what my life actually is? That's just, well, this is what you're quote unquote supposed to do or where you're supposed to be or, like what a successful life looks like if these things are in place. So I really appreciate that part of the conversation. It's a good reminder for me. So, Becca, what does your heart know to be true about goal setting?
My heart knows that I don't have to be hard on myself or go into a place of shame in order to get what I want and need. And also that it's okay for me to go after what I want for myself, even if that's different from what other people want for me.
Mm-hmm.
What does your heart know to be true, Erika?
My heart knows that throwing spaghetti at the wall to pick my goals for the year or whenever I'm trying to look at something is not the way to go about it. And then it's okay to, I think, pick something that's outside of the norm or different, just something that you want to play with. And it doesn't have to be all so measurable and tangible.
Mm.
What about you, Yolanda?
Well, what my heart knows to be true, and what I'm realizing more and more as we're having this conversation is that goal setting doesn't have to mean pain. Like reaching a goal doesn't have to be some painful experience. I think over my life, I have gotten this concept that um, goals should be so big and, stretch goals should be so exuberant that um, to actually be able to achieve them is going to take so much effort and energy. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Love that.
Yeah. Thanks for the conversation, Becca.
We are so excited to announce our upcoming live event. Join us online on January 19th, 2025, where we'll guide you through the sometimes shame and guilt-ridden experience of setting goals for the year. We'll have real talk about how goal setting can lead to burnout and real support for visioning a 2025 that includes real rest, connection, and play. Go to notwhatithought.com to register. We hope to see you there.